Recording in progress.
How much did it help facing some of the top left-handers in the country during some of your scrimmages to start the year?
Yeah, that absolutely helps. You have to be comfortable with standing in there, or else you're not going to survive in our practices. You're just not. We have 8, 9, 10, 11 dynamic left-handed pitching arms. So you have to settle in and manage it. And I think our left-handed hitters in general are pretty tough. Like Gage hangs in there pretty well. Max, Jackson West, they hang in there. So the matchup clearly is still a thing, but all in all, I think becoming familiar with that caliber of left-handed arm in our practices and the at-bats, they do mount in the fall and the preseason. So that does help a lot. And the things we do in the cage, these guys get thousands of reps, and we set the machines at angles, and the breaking pitches come from angles, and we do different fastball profiles for making the machine feel like it's a left-handed pitcher, fastball, slider, and changeup. So we hope that we train the guys to handle really good righties and really good lefties, and you also try to create that toughness where if you are matched up later in games with bullpen arms, that you can hang in there and still be comfortable in those leverage moments.
Coach, last night you guys trailed for the first time all season. I know it was brief, but to see them come back after going down early, and I think it was 5 unanswered runs, just what does it say about this group's mentality?
Well, they like to compete, and that is one of the most important traits that you have. The guys are competitive, and they try to win. I feel like every pitch, to be honest with you, they're trying to win every pitch on the mound, and then the at-bat side of it gets a sequencing of one-pitch little battles that you have. And if you can make really good swing decisions, take decisions, that puts you in motion to do some decent things, at least in the batter's box. And then there were moments last night where we ran the bases pretty well. Poor Lodis, he kind of ran into the tag, and he was disgusted with himself for that, which actually created a double play. But you have to have a lot of things go right to score consistently. Like, even if it's one run, like we've seemed to have the ability in these games to sprinkle in runs here and there, and we have answered. It seems like it happened in a game this past weekend where our opponent would somehow find a way to score, and we would immediately answer and respond. And that's a really good trait. And I don't know that it's anything other than they're just one pitch at a time competitiveness overall. That's what I see. And you can't go much beyond that, but that singular trait sets things in motion to give you a chance to score, whether the other team has scored and you're trying to respond, or whether you're simply just trying to fight to have a good inning. So just all in all, a good trait.
Coach, Jackson West had his best game of the season so far, and he's always clapping, he's always cheering for others. So how was that kind of like for him to finally get those balls to land, for him to reach base and all this type of stuff? Because you talk about how hard him and all the other guys have been working this offseason.
I think relief is a good word to get it started. You spend all the time, after the success he had, especially late in the year last year, to help push us through some of the postseason wins. Then you go play summer ball and you come back in the fall, and I feel like it was the first time he might have been very consistent with what he was doing physically at the plate, and then how he was approaching his work, and then how he was approaching the games. You do all that and you don't get off to a good start, the pressure starts to mount a little bit. And the quality of his at-bat was not indicative of the lack of statistical success he had experienced. So we all knew that. And he had made a lot of really good contact and had some good at-bats. And sooner or later, if you don't go into freak out mode, sooner or later things will start to go your way. And it may be, a little soft flare that kind of got him going, and then a ground ball works through the middle, and there's a little sense of relief that, okay, I've got a couple hits, I'm into this thing. And those at-bats last night were just exceptional, and they were very timely, and we needed it. And, you saw him hit line drives all over the place. So I think now that he's a little more settled, we'll start to see what we saw out of him in the fall and the preseason. And it has been on display periodically, but hopefully now it's a little more consistent in just simply the result and the statistical productivity for him.
Hey,
Coach,
Max took that ball off the hand or the wrist last night. How's he doing? What's kind of his outlook for the weekend?
He's okay. Like, they're evaluating him right now. He's okay. Now when you take it, I think he actually took it off the top hand. So just an unusual thing. But in terms of the conversation about the left-handed pitching, like, you have to hang in there. And I think that's the case. And that's happened to him a couple times where he's really hanging in there and makes late decisions and hangs in there on that breaking ball pretty well against the lefties. And sometimes that fastball, when people hang in there and cover away and cover that slider, I think sometimes they try to throw balls in, and that got him. But it sounded like there was no serious injury, and now it's just a comfort thing. But it was unusual that it actually got his top hand. So he's going to be okay. Now, we have to just see comfort in holding the bat, swinging the bat, and throwing. And we're obviously thin out there. So when he's ready to go, comfortably ready to go, there's a difference between, okay, I'm going to go out there and do this, and am I actually ready to perform? I think sometimes with the young athletes, those are two different conversations. So we're not into a ball game and having to make a modification because somebody was trying to give it a shot and wasn't really ready to go. So this is just going to be a comfort thing and the ability to swing. But all in all, I think he came out of that as well as you could hope. If that breaks stuff in there, then it's a whole different conversation.
Kind of, I guess, connected to that, how impressed were you with BJ taking advantage of that opportunity that was presented? And I guess in general, for a guy who didn't play baseball for a full year, how impressed were you? It seems like he's quick to pick things back up pretty quickly.
Yeah, he's very serious about this. I will tell you that even in the recruiting process, like, he's very serious about his baseball work. And all of a sudden you're in the middle of a very tight ball game, and there's BJ in right field, and he's at the plate holding his own. And it's impossible for him to have the reps that most of the other players on any team have had up to this point entering the season, not to mention being a freshman. But when you think about the two sports stars that we've had at Florida State, it's part of the reason we continue to attract multi-sport athletes. I guess when you look at the Heisman Trophy winners here, yes, two of them were baseball players in some respect, and then one was a baseball player who, Charlie, might have been actually drafted in baseball if I remember correctly. So I think the overall versatility of the athletes that we can attract here, in part to have a chance in some cases to do two sports, is a testament to how the facilities are designed, the closeness with which the coaching staffs work. And I was so happy for him to actually get into the game. Now, did he get into the game under the conditions we would like? Maybe not, because you're hoping you have another player that's not seriously injured. But it is neat that he gets a chance to go out there and play, and he's right in the thick of it, and had a couple key base hits and made a nice play in right field at a tricky time of the night. And the dusk time over there in Jacksonville, it's just different. Like, the lighting is not fully engaged yet when you're in that dusk period of time. So I was very proud of him. And for a freshman who didn't have the whole fall to learn and grow with the program, it says a lot about his toughness, his desire to go out there and perform. And I'm happy that he was in there and had some success and tasted what that was like.
You've mentioned bullpen and pitching depth, and we saw it last night. Obviously, Jacob came in, and then Ben goes in for a quick outing, but Chris comes in, bases loaded, gets out, and just kind of his energy. What does it say to have these guys ready to go? And even if someone's on an off night, you can rely on somebody behind him.
It's a beautiful thing. And I think the most impactful part of what can happen in a baseball game is the injection of bullpen arms and leverage situations and trying to match up. And we talked last night after the game. It was late, and it was a late night for everybody, but I kept him out there for a while in the outfield. And as hard as we all want to be on our A game every night coming out of the bullpen from pitch one, it's improbable that that's ever going to really happen. So having depth and having guys that are prepared and have some guts to go into leverage situations, we try to create leverage situations all fall and all preseason. So that almost becomes the norm for what they're entering when they come into the game. That being said, last night, the importance and the significance of coming into that game. Ben, the last time he was on the mound, was as dynamic as any pitcher could be with an 87, 88 mile an hour slider and 94, 96. And looked like he had it. And then all of a sudden, it felt like, man, we need something else to change the course of this. And I mean, Kinnear was as good as we've ever seen him. I thought the velocity was good, but the location of the pitches, when we were calling pitches that we wanted in the top of the zone or up, he did it. He buried some of the breaking balls. They had depth and life. A+. Marlowe, great. And we thought from Crest to Marlowe, it's just a totally different look. And we thought he could bridge it a little bit. I thought he did a good job. The only thing would be the 0-2 fastball. He was trying to go up out of the zone to set up his changeup, and he clearly didn't get it up there. But I've been very pleased and happy with how we've managed out of the bullpen. And again, I think those guys being prepared and dynamic when they enter the game is the most impactful part of what we can do to change the course of a game, hold the game in check, or finish the game. It's critical, most important thing. And they did it last night.
Coach, I was wondering if you could give us a little preview on Georgetown, and then also, does losing an unexpected day affect anything for your team going into this weekend?
Well, it throws your rhythm off a little bit. I mean, we got in at 1:30 in the morning until the guys got settled and home. I bet you it was 2:30 or 3. So we're going to have a really light practice today and just get them out and just move around a little bit. And I think they're fine. Like this stuff happens. And to be honest with you, when we heard what the conditions in Jacksonville were like, and they were going to fight to even get the field playable, and we started talking about, do you push this thing back to 7:30 or 8 o'clock at night on Tuesday? And we just felt, let's just move it to Wednesday while we have the flexibility. You don't always have that flexibility, but it was beautiful. So all in all, it might have created a better ball game scenario field wise. Georgetown's experience, they have a lot of arms back. And I think when you look at JMU had a lot of arms back, and they won 36 games last year. Edwin does a really good job with their program. They have a couple dynamic bats, left-handed. They have a mixture of arms. I have dug into it a little bit. The rest of the day and tonight and tomorrow, I'll kind of finish my synopsis of what we need to do there. But experienced on the mound. You see different things. I think Penn was far more experienced with their positional players. JMU a little more experienced on the mound, and this probably goes Georgetown a little bit more experience on the mound with a lot of innings. Like it's a lot of innings that are back. And clearly, how this went last night, we got to rest a few of our bullpen arms. So I do feel like countering what they have, you do have a good projection with Jamie and Bellini and Mendez, and you have some of your bullpen arms a little more rested going into it. So I feel good. We'll dive in a little bit more today and tonight on what we feel like we need to do to finish off the scouting information on Georgetown. But a winning team and a lot of experienced guys and older. And in this era, when you can have age, maturity, and experience, that goes a long way, and they have it.
Coach, I wanted to follow up with something different. I don't know how much you track other teams around the conference, but some of the other ranked teams to start the year are struggling a little bit right now. But for you guys, you're 8-0 this year. You guys started 19-0 last year, and we kind of talked about before. But what is it about the leadership in the room that, as soon as first pitch, just guys are ready to go, that some other teams around the country are kind of struggling with that right now?
Jordan, I don't know the answer. I do stress the importance of when the first pitch of the season is thrown, this stuff counts, and it counts in a manner that you cannot erase if you're not prepared to go. Like, this resume is built from pitch one, and I try to prepare everybody as best I can. So when you start, you don't feel like this is shock and awe when you're on the field. I would like our practices and the preparation to be more difficult than when you actually play a game. So that's where it starts. And then aligning things on the mound to make sure you have guys that are starting prepared to start, guys that are in the leverage situation out of the, like everybody's leverage if you're not starting. So let's get that straight. All of those innings matter. So how do we acclimate and prepare guys to come into those leverage situations? So when it does happen in game one, they're prepared and it doesn't catch anybody off guard. So we try just to get it going out of the gate, and then you have to stay healthy. And that's been the trickiest part. Like we are so banged up right now and just freak little things, but it starts to whittle away at the depth that you have. And there's no devastating, like career ending, season ending stuff, but it's amazing once you've played 5, 6, 7, 8 games, what you have to deal with to try to manage the personnel. And are we moving somebody to a new spot just to try to create an opportunity if need be? Or is it an opportunity for somebody to have to inject into a game, even to start a game in a position that maybe we didn't see coming out of the gate because so many guys are banged up? So that's a lot of info for you, but I try to make sure we're prepared for pitch one of the season and making things difficult on them so that when you do start an actual game, maybe the game seems easier and we know we have the fans behind us and we kind of get started at home here. And that's my approach to it.
Any other questions for Coach?